Right. Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How you doing? It's Big P here. You know, don't you? You know. That's why you've tuned in. 'Cause I'm the man that says it that nobody else wants to say. Today I'm joined by Ken from Northern Ireland. I keep calling you Kent. It's because in your email there's a T after your name, isn't there? Is that for your
And
middle
yeah,
name?
that's my name. That's my name.
Oh, Kent.
Yep.
As in like
I just let
Kent.
yeah.
Oh, you
I just let you work away.
prefer to be called Ken though, do you?
No, I just call me anything you want. I don't mind. It's all right.
What is it, Ken or Kent or Kenny?
It's can't.
Kent.
Yep.
Right then. Okie dokie. So Ken, how have you been since we last had you on?
All right. I just
No?
doing a bit of training, just getting on with it, keeping in a routine, getting as much fresh air, watching some DVDs, some boxing, just keeping it, just trying to keep it as normal as I can, mate.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Uh, did you listen to? Wait, have you been listening to any podcasts lately or anything like that?
So I used to listen to a lot of it, lots of it, and it's getting to the stage now, Russell, where I can only hear the same type of content once or twice because it's recycled. And I'm at that, I don't mean to be arrogant, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but I'm at that level of knowledge in boxing where I don't want to be listening to, yeah, the fight's on, the fight's getting made, this is on. And I don't want to listen to the same type of people kissing the same amount of same ass on these platforms every week. I'm not learning anything by it. I'm not gaining any information, and I'm not gaining any pleasure by it because it's the same people doing the same thing. So apart from Terry, beautiful boxing podcast, and yourself,
Who?
Terry,
Oh, Terry. Oh, yeah, yeah. I thought you said Perry. Yeah, go on.
Terry, I won't listen to anything else, Russell. I'm not listening to it. I'll listen to some other platforms just to get information on, what I'm going to talk about on here. But I'm just getting sick of the same stories, the same nonsense being regurgitated and recycled every time. So no, apart from you and Terry and some other interviews, that's it, because they're not on that level. There's a lot of these people coming in now doing the podcasts, and they don't come from the background that I have in boxing or your background or Terry. So they don't have that knowledge. They don't have that story. They don't have the passion. They're probably doing it because it's fashionable at the minute,
Yeah.
and it's a way in to get diamonds in the kind of glee club. So no, I don't want. It's the same nonsense all the time. To be honest, Russell.
Do you feel that there's a lot of people coming into the YouTube world and trying to get in on the boxing scene and are just basically whoring themselves and just want to kiss everybody's ass to get in there and not got the sports interest at heart like we have?
Yeah, I listened to some of the stuff on the channel last week, and one of the guys, he's really good, and he said like one of the brothers are taking it more serious and this and that. Well, at that, no, like it's like saying to me, here, Kent, do you want to go and play for Man United and go to training every day, kick the balls about and do the sessions, and we'll take you more serious. See if you're not on that skill level and you're not on that level. And it would be different if they were fighting on small hall shows with nobody watching and nobody really paying to see them and fighting hard opponents. You probably would. or they come through the amateur system the way any aspiring, well, most aspiring boxers will go through. You kind of could have that wee bit of credibility for them, but no, I don't give them any credibility whatsoever. And the very fact that a lot of the channels now, Russell, are meant to be boxing channels, but they're featuring these YouTube guys more and more and more, when there's other aspiring boxers. There's lads out there who maybe can't sell tickets. There's guys out there maybe coming off a few defeats. Go and feature them and give them a bit of a following, and give them a bit of a leg up. Not these commercial. It's like the X Factor of boxing now. That's what it's like. And I just don't have any time for it. And I'm getting absolutely sick of going on every boxing channel now, even online, to look at content. And it's just saturated with these YouTube guys. And I'm sick of it. And the sport, people think because there's people from Instagram watching the sport and tuning in that there, these people aren't going to go down the bottom of your road and pay in to see a small hall show. So they're not proper. It's not proper fans. It's just numbers. They're just blank numbers. And is it good for the sport? No. And I'm sick of it. And it's just like a lot of the channels now will do anything. It's not as raw as it used to be. It used to be about taking you back behind the scenes, showing you what's going on, which was great, and interviewing this and that. And that was good. It's not about that no more. It's about getting views and getting these, I don't even want to call them boxers because they're not boxers and they're not fighters, getting these YouTube guys on to get views. Is it hurting the sport? Yes, it is. Are these people hearing themselves out? Yes, they are.
Okay. You went to 2001 World Championships in Ireland, didn't you, Belfast?
Yep, amazing.
Who were first person from Great Britain to win a medal in them tournaments?
Oh my word, that was. I didn't get to the final, Russell. The final was sold out like weeks before. I went to every night.
No, I'm just saying, from England, there were a bronze
from England
and a silver. Yeah.
David Hay got the final and got beat at heavyweight by Orlando Solis.
Yeah. Who got the bronze?
Was it Froch?
Froch. He was first Englishman to win a medal at World Championships in the history of the sport for England. He fought twice on that day, though, Carl. That's why he got a bronze. Otherwise, he'd have won gold. I'd say that.
Amazing. I remember I was at that, and I was actually sitting behind his family at the time, and there was nobody really. Everybody was spaced out, sitting. Not everyone was together, obviously, and there was 3 rings, and I was sitting there, and I heard a couple of like English people, obviously, and I turned around and I was like, "Who is watching?" I was like, "Carl Froch." And I go, right, I didn't know about Carl Froch at the time. He's like, he's fighting at middleweight. I'm like, oh, great. Well, good luck and all. And
165 in them days. One weight still, isn't it? For middleweight. Then.
Yeah. And his mum and dad were behind me, and his brothers. Yeah. And his brother bought me a pint because I was on my own. And I couldn't drink. I was 19. I couldn't drink. And I didn't want to be ungrateful and say, I don't want your pint. So I drunk it, and I was like near pissed. But I had a great time. I remember watching that's the best boxing I've ever seen in my life. I remember watching Rogondo against Yuri Sidorenko in the semi-final of the flyweight. It's the best fight I ever. Sidorenko beat him in the last second by a point. It was the skill of those Cuban fighters is like nothing I've ever seen from it. It was just incredible experience. It was
David
amazing.
Hay to win gold though that year, wasn't he?
Yes, David Hay was tipped to win the gold at heavyweight. He had Solis over in the first round, and Solis just come back at him like a hurricane, and they rung the bell. It was a 21 rule then. It was 21-point rule then, and Solis was so far ahead on the points. They rung the bell. But Hay was walking around with an entourage of like bag carriers, and I don't know. I was actually afraid to go over to him and get an autograph because this was before iPhones and all that. Autographs would have been the thing. But he had such an entourage, and when he turned pro, it was like on TV. It was like, oh, I know him. I seen him at the World Championships, and when Froch turned pro. I remember when Froch turned pro, there was McKennis
2002.
Amazing, and had the big double spread in boxing news. And because I watch Carl at the amateur championships, I follow him the whole way through that. So it's kind of great seeing somebody that you don't know. I never met Carl, but I met his family at the championship. So I always had that affection for him. And he'd done everything on the road. He didn't have a TV network at the time. And Mick Hennessy, deserves a lot of credit for what ducking and diving that Mick done. It was just an amazing. I will never forget that. I would love to get a DVD off it and sit down and watch the fights on DVD. But it was just magic time.
Yeah, and when you look back, obviously they both ended up millionaires and pay-per-view stars, didn't they? But when you look back, what have we really had since then who were as good as them as amateurs coming through?
We have had a lot of narratives. We have had a lot of stories, but when you look at it, we haven't really had, a massive, apart from Joshua, we haven't really had a big star come through in the middle of that. We had the UFIs, we had this, we had that.
James DeGale.
We had DeGale, but DeGale, we had Groves who didn't go to the Worlds. We had DeGale, but I think the thing what went wrong with DeGale is he went over to Hyman, and he wasn't built really in Britain at that time when he won the world title. So it was going to be hard for DeGale coming back and getting the Froch fight because nobody really knew. He wasn't really built properly after he won the world title in America against Durrell. He should have come over to Britain and had defenses and had fights. Probably could have had a Groves rematch, which would have been massive. But his career didn't really go to the heights I felt it should have been. But that's here and there. But Froch, Froch done it on the road. He done it as he fought in ITV. He had a good dealer with Mick, and I remember he had some great fights on ITV. The Super Series, he fought everyone. The Jermaine Taylor fight was like, when have you seen a fight?
That were on ITV. That one in Super 6. It will be fought Super 6.
Yeah, that's right. The Jermaine Taylor fight. When have you seen that fight? Reminded me a bit of Medrick Taylor and Chavez. Last second. Knockout, just amazing. He absolutely schooled Arthur Abraham, schooled him. He could have had one hand behind his back, and he still schooled him. He fought Andre Ward. Carl gets a lot of stick about that defeat.
Look how he finished.
The scores were it wasn't a landslide. Carl gave Andre Ward probably a toughest fight of his career, apart from the first Kovalev fight. But yeah, he came back amazingly, and he made an absolute packet out of the sport and achieved a lot. Will that ever be done again? Is there a star that's going to do that again coming through? Has there been a star come through apart from Joshua?
Let me just ask you this, Ken, right? I'm not saying this because I'm a big Carl Froch fan and he's me mate. I want to say this. When you look at his career, Carl's career, I once said to him, God, how do you feel about having all these hard fights, back after back, fight to fight? He said, well, if I do this, other people, it sets a precedent and others have got to follow. Because he still loves boxing, he always will. But people haven't followed, have they? They've not took them hard fights. Bellew didn't follow, did he, when he had an opportunity? He could have won, he won that belt. He could have gone into that tournament with Usyk and all the rest of them, couldn't he? But he didn't want that, did he, Bellew? He was thinking, these are a bit too much for me. I've just got dropped by a small cruiser. These are big cruisers. He thought we'll get pay-per-view. We're washed up David A. But when I look at people like Tony Bellew's legacy, and I look at Carl's legacy, it's day and night. You know, when you look at it, the careers, one's never beat a champion, and he's got 2 wins over David A. and a stinker over Cleverly, and Macabre. What's he got? That's 4, isn't it? Froch has got, you know, 11, 12 elite wins on his record compared to Bellew's. And then I look at the new, because Bellew, in my opinion, is, let's be honest about it, Tony Bellew is a arse licker. He's a networker, but an arse licker with it. And he's not ashamed, because he's doing his best for him to further himself for his career or wherever he thinks wherever he's going, to feed his family and to get money and to be revered and all that. He does a lot of arse licking. We agree on that, don't we, Ken? Yeah. Right. So he's an arse licker. It's a new breed of arse licking. And then we look at Carl Froch. He don't kiss anybody's arse. He's secure. He's a very secure person mentally, Carl. He's secure in the fact that his CV is top of the pile, isn't it? Only CV that you could say from this era, from his Carl's era, that could top his would probably be Lennox Lewis's, wouldn't it? From Britain. And you could say Calzaghe because he didn't get beat. But as regards the elite wins, they're not as good as Froch's, are they? But that Calzaghe and Froch were a different era, wasn't it? So he's in that bracket, isn't he? I'd put him above Nazim Ahmed for his wins as well, above Hatton and all that. So he's securing the fact that when he puts his head down, he's made a packet out of the sport, he's won everything, and he's his own man. He don't have to kiss arse, does he? He'll say what he wants on Sky. And then you look, like I just said, you look at Bellew, look how he has to behave. That's probably because he's insecure in what he's achieved in the sport, for the simple reason he never took a belt off a champion, did he? So he always feels like he has to go that extra bit further because he's insecure, and is Sky going to drop him, or do they need him, or is he in the circle? Whereas people like your Frochers and your David A to a certain extent, Lennox Lewis, they're secure, aren't they, with what they've done, amateur and pro. Does that sound right? Does that sound about?
Yes. You know, if Sky rung up Carl today and says, here, Carl, you're not on Sky anymore, he'd just say, I did not, phone down. You know, he's got properties, he's got businesses, he's financially secure. He doesn't need
garage, mate. 2 Ferraris in garage and a Range Rover out in rain outside at garage.
So he's got that attitude when he goes on television, that if he says something that they don't like, get on, that's okay. Don't have me back on. The other guys, like Bellew and stuff, were like, I remember he commented there a couple of weeks ago, like, we have signed this great fighter.
Who's we? Is Tony Bellew Matchroom now?
Who's we? You know, you have got an independent slot as an independent like broadcaster on Sky. You know, it's probably like an independent role. He doesn't work for Sky, he doesn't work for Matchroom. No. So it's not like he's being paid a salary every week for Matchroom, and he gets paid for Sky to be independent. So it's not like he should really be even saying that type of talk. Oh, we this, we that. Well, who are you talking about? You're talking about Sky, you're talking about Matchroom. So that type of talk for me is just like someone screaming out to be a part of something that he's not. Yeah. You know, I'm sure Eddie's just laughing and saying, like, flip's sake, like, these people are taking on my belly here every day, like, for for airtime and to be relevant. So when you're talking about their guys' careers, you know, if Car Froch was walking down the street and someone says, "I Car, I this and that," he wouldn't give a damn about what anyone said because he knows that he had those elite world class wins.
Yeah.
Where if it would be
Back to
Bellew
back.
walking down the street,
Back to back.
where if it was like Bellew walking down the street and then someone shouted at him, "Oh, Bellew, flip sake, you beat a 90-year-old David Hay with his leg taped, his Achilles taped together with masking tape," he would go bonkers because he probably wouldn't know that's the truth.
Nathan Cleverly as well. He had a life and death with a midget for Everton football ground, didn't he? But he carries off like he's King Kong Bellew. Unbelievable, mate.
At the time, I kind of supported him. You know, when he was with Frank Warren, I remember I seen him in a couple of bills on Belfast. I watched him as an amateur fight at Andersonstown Leisure Centre years back, and I watched him as a young pro. So I kind of followed him, and I got behind him. But the more the career dragged out, you know, that whole fiasco with who was that guy? Who was that part-time guy who is mates with David Hay, who should never have got a world title fight? He fought him.
Low John Flores.
Terrible.
Flores.
My word, what a that's probably one of the worst standard world title fights I've ever that card, and the whole screaming match at the end of it was like Russell. It was like two girls outside a nightclub fighting over some guy. Yeah. That's what it was like. It was embarrassing. And see, from that moment, I was just like, my nearly beat. I was hoping that David had something left to steamroll him, and he hadn't. He couldn't even throw a straight right hand because of his shoulder, and his Achilles was taped together with masking tape apparently. So that's not a real credible win at heavyweight. It shows that it's kind of like an X Factor world title win. You know, it's just manufactured, just been guided. You know, I don't know how he was allowed to, you know, hold on to that WBC title for so long and not defend it and fight up at heavyweight and that was just why was that allowed? And then when he was offered to go in and fight the big boys up at cruiserweight, he didn't want to do it. He'd done it. The thing was shrewd about it was when he fought Usyk, he waited until Usyk went through that hard tournament and had come through those difficult fights, and he had no. Who else was he going to fight? You know, it wasn't like he couldn't have went down and fought somebody that Usyk had just beat. So that was his cash. That was the cash out fight for him. You know, if he really wanted that fight, he wouldn't have had those two. Well, firstly, he wouldn't have had that terrible BJ Flores fight, and he wouldn't have had those two pantomime David Hay fights. So, yeah, you're 100% right. 100% right.
I had an email off somebody. I'm not going to mention your name on it because you're not worth mentioning. Don't know you. Don't want to know you. But it keeps chipping up. Every 3 or 4 days, I get this email off this particular guy, and I need to learn how to block him on it, don't I? I have to get somebody to do it for me. Right, this particular guy keeps going on about how Froch bottled the James DeGale mandatory. First of all, let me just clear this up for you. I'm not going to mention your name, but I'll clear this up for you, right? James DeGale, right, for Durrell for vacant belt. We agree with that, don't we? Right.
Yep.
Who took Durrell's 0? Froch, didn't he? Froch took his undefeated record, and years later, DeGale's fighting him. So that's leftovers. So that's that one answered. And the other one is Booty. who took Boute's? That was his first defence, wasn't it? The Gales, I think. Who took Boute's undefeated record? Not only took it, wrote him off, punched him upside down, ripped belt from him. Carl Froch, right? So, and then they've got this guy here abusing me, telling me that Froch bottled from De Gale, right? George Groves took De Gale's O, didn't he? Right? Who took George Groves's O? Froch. So what are you going on about, mate? What are you going on about? You're on a different planet, mate. If you want to take me on, make sure you study your facts before you take me on, because I've just rinsed you, mate. All right. So, all right then. Well, we'll move on from the adventures of the Cobra, the Sheriff of Nottingham, and David Costcutter Hay, the man. If he's working with BT Sport, Daniel Dubois, best fighter in the world. If he's working with Sky Sport, Joshua's best fighter in the world. David A, the man with 40 faces, isn't it? Moving on from David A and the Cobra, right? Callum Johnson has got a fight and he lined up against, is it Markin or something? There's no
32-2.
It's 30. It's not for a belt though, is it?
Yes.
What is it from interim belt?
It's a WBO global title.
Global title, yeah. It's just a trinket belt though, isn't it? Just to get into WBO rankings. Do you think that they'll go for a full title shot on WBO then? If they win?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's the reason they're going for the global title is if you win one of those trinket international global Europeans, you get top 15 ranking, top 10 ranking.
But you do if you win EBU, don't you?
EBU is the WBC. They're very tight with the WBC, so it's a top 10 ranking automatic.
Yeah, but you can lobby, can't you? I mean, if you win a British title, right? I remember Liam Cameron winning the Commonwealth and me and Dennis going to see IBF in a restaurant. You probably know I left him that night. I left him stormed off in his car. That was the night before Warrington Selby in Leeds. But what I want to make is Liam were Commonwealth champion and Dennis lobbied for Liam to be ranked in top 15 with IBF and he got Liam a number 12 ranking. So it's all to do with your promoter and if he's prepared to go that extra 9 yards. You know what I mean by that, don't you? For his fighter. Now, I look at it like this. Callum Johnson, for me, is already world level because he dropped Beef. And I just don't think he had that big game experience at the time then. I think he has now, though. And I think he's already there. I think it's just a case of them getting him a title shot. If Callum Johnson wins a world title, he could be Frank Warren's saviour, you know him. He could be because Yard, I don't think is going to win a world title. No. Dubois, jury's out on him, innit? Who's the other one? Dennis McCann. If anything happens to him, a whole stack of cards will come caving in for Frank, won't it? Who else is doing Frank's stable who excites you?
Who excites me?
Does he excite you?
Who's that, sorry?
Does Jack Cattrall excite you? He don't me.
He's got a good record. He's 20-0. He had a good win over Tyrone McCullough. Outside of that, really, he's just been very active and he's 20-0. So does someone he's a good fighter and all and this and that, but he's not on the tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone doesn't really know about him. Zach Parker is another example. You know, I think he's a really good fighter. He's 20-0. He's just been very, very active and he's a lot of wins. Does it mean he's going to be world class? Does it mean he's going to take Frank Warren to that next level?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. You know, big records, undefeated records doesn't mean that doesn't mean they can really fight. So you look at what I'm trying to say is you look at Callum Johnson. Callum Johnson was in a beer beef. Was it 15 fights? Yeah. Around that? And he was fighting the most deadly puncher at light heavyweight and he had him on his backside and looked absolutely fearless. He looked like, I'm just going to just get stuck into this guy. And he showed him no fear taking the fight, and he showed him no fear in the ring. You know, Callum Johnson was Commonwealth Games gold medalist. He's a decorated amateur career. He's not afraid of anybody. He's sparring world-class fighters in the gym daily with Joe Gallagher.
You think
He's 36.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm just coming to that. He's 36, but he's like a 36-year-old. But we know miles on clock. He's like a BMW that's say 20-year-old, but 30,000 on clock, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a youthful 36-year-old. You know, he don't see him. I don't think he lives like a lifestyle where he's out boozing and doing other things. He's been in the gym for the past 2 years, you know, when he's been inactive. So that says a lot. You know, if you're inactive and you have nothing coming up and you're still in the gym daily, training and sparring and helping your club mates out,
yeah,
that shows that they love the sport and they're dedicated. Do I think that it could save Frank Warren's business? I think if you look at what could happen if he wins the world title, there is 3 or 4 fights there within Frank's own stable that they could match Callum Johnson with that would sell out arenas. I would pay pay-per-view to see Callum Johnson fight Yard with a few good wins behind him. To be honest, it would be a big domestic fight. It would be a good domestic fight. So that's something that they want. That's something what Frank needs. Frank needs a fighter now that's going to sell out arenas. And, you know, young Dennis McCann's only 9-0, 10-0. He's not at that level yet. David Adelaide isn't at that level yet to sell out arenas. So he's got left with Yard, who's had 2 defeats. You know, he's not going to sell out an arena now because he's two defeats in 3 fights.
Yeah.
So you've got somebody like Callum Johnson, who if Callum Johnson wins a world title, Frank will not be matching him poorly. He will be matching him with the stable to maximize in-house, so he can maximize in revenue on the gate and on TV. That's his only way. He can't be. If Colin Johnson wins a world title and they're bringing some guy over from Colombia who's nobody's heard of, or some guy from Eastern European, that's not going to sell arenas. That's not going to sell pay-per-views. It has to be done with fighters that people know and are worthy of a title shot.
What do you think about a lot of people in the industry saying that Frank this could be his last big run, staying relevant? Do you agree with that? You know, after looking at the last 2 shows he's put on, do you think it's worrying times for Bricktop?
Yes, it is, because, you know, Hearn has got that global thing going on with DAZN. He's got the Sky thing. He's got Kaleno. He's got that other markets, other territories, where Frank's just left with UK fighters. So he's got a small percentage of a territory. The last 2 shows have been absolutely diabolical, to be honest. We have got fighters on there with losing records who haven't won a fight. We have got guys going up and fighting for titles at the wrong weight and not being matched properly, not being built properly. We have got guys getting in there who have never fought before, fighting world-class fighters, and they're not competitive fights. They're not competitive. Now, the last couple of shows that Frank's done were the worst that I've seen in a long time. But we revert back and we look at some of the other stuff he's been putting on. The cards have been pretty good. You know, the fights have been competitive. You know, you look at the Dewa Joyce fight, that was a British Commonwealth European title, 2 undefeated fighters. We had the Hutchison Clark. It was a British title. You know, we had some other British Commonwealth title fights on the cards. where Matchroom aren't doing content of that quality. So do I think Frank's on his way out? I don't think he's on his way out, but I think there's pressure on him now to get a world champion and to get arena sales. Now, Sonny Edwards is a world title fight here, next month. There's a lot of pressure on that fight. That fight has a lot of pressure on it, a lot of pressure. I would like to see Frank. I've kind of an affection for Frank. I've always liked Frank. He brought boxing over to Belfast when nobody wanted to do it. And he's been in the sport a long time. He started off promoting Lenny McLean back in the day. And he comes from a good stock. He took on the old hierarchy of Mickey Duff and that there and stuff. And you can kind of see that turning nice full circle on him with Matchroom and stuff on him. But yeah, there's big pressure now. They need BT Russell. They need to have world championship boxing on their platform, which means that they need Queensberry fighters to win world titles. And if their fighters aren't winning world titles, that deal's going to be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. He's going to be in the last chance saloon, though, if he has a couple of more defeats of his main guys, Frank, isn't he? You think?
Yeah, it's pressure. There's a lot of pressure on. Sonny Edwards needs to win this world title to get some sort of momentum back. Calm Johnson will need to win a world title. He will need world champions in that stable. Dennis McCann for a world title is 3-4 years away. David Adelaide with the state of the heavyweight division in the world, that could be 5 years away. So there is a lot of pressure on Frank Warren at the minute, and that platform want world champions. Any platform that's on TV will say, tune into us, we have the best content. But if they're saying that and they don't have world champions, people aren't going to renew their subscription.
No, they're not. What do you think to Carl Frampton's performance at weekend, and should he have been put in that fight, yes or no?
So I've known Carl Frampton since he was 14, and I love Carl Frampton and what he's done for Northern Ireland and boxing and people has been amazing. He's give us great nights that we never had before. When we always talked about boxing, everyone was like, oh, back in the day, I used to go to McGuigan fights and it was sold out and everything was this and that. And you always said to yourself, flip, I wish I could be at something like that. Well, we had that with Carl Frampton. We had that hysteria, and we had a hero. We had a world-class fighter who was down to earth.
Yeah.
And I just, you look at the skill level that Carl Frampton had and the fighters he fought, he was built up really well. He started off at area level. Then he went to Commonwealth title level. Then he went to international. He went to European level. He went to world level. He defended his titles. Like some champions don't even do nowadays. They get a world title and they move or they vacate.
Oh, yeah, has he?
What's that, sorry?
Tyson Fury's not defended a belt yet.
No. So we had this great champion, and I was very silent on the fight because firstly he's my friend, and I'm not going to say anything bad about someone who has given the sport and the country so much. I knew from probably about 30 seconds into the fight that something was missing. I've seen Carl fight as a 14-year-old. I've seen him fight in National Stadium against world-class fighters at Irish level. I've seen him fight in the Cruise Club against Willie Casey. I've seen him fight Ulster senior level. I've seen him fight as a pro. And I was like, I found it really hard to watch as a fan. And I don't think, looking at that performance, a fighter, Russell, someone as brave as Frampton, you say, here, go and fight this guy. Yeah, he'll fight them. He'll not turn them down. He'll, same way as Froch would have fought anybody. Or, he was put in a bad position where he could have been hurt at that stage of his career. And the round before, I was screaming at the TV because the openings were coming. He was getting caught in the way in. He was getting caught in the inside quite a lot. He could move his head, which I've never seen him like that before, his feet. And I'm looking at Carl and I'm saying to the corner, like, they shouldn't even let him out. See the round he was stopped? I wanted them to pull him out the round before because I seen the openings and I seen it was just getting harder and harder. I've never seen Carl Frampton being caught square with a jab in 20 years. We'd never seen Jamel Herring look as devastating. He looked devastating, but it kind of flatters him a wee bit because it just shows you Carl's had a very, very hard career. We used to spar over 220 rounds of sparring in camp. That takes a lot out of fighters. He's had a lot of court battles. He just lost Billy just before the fight, which was so sad. I don't think he should have been in that position in that fight. No, he shouldn't have.
Do you feel that Carl Frampton maybe needed the money, or the people around him needed the money, and they were telling him that he was in great condition and this and that and best camp ever, all the usual bullshit? But do you feel that maybe people didn't have his best interests at heart?
Firstly, Russell, that Carl doesn't need money from, he didn't take that fight because he needed the money. He's financially secure. I'm sure Carl Frampton could sell out an after dinner show every night of the week in Belfast if he wanted. So future revenue and things like that isn't a problem. He's done well out of boxing. There was a court case that was settled that I don't know anything about, but he seemed happy with it. So it wasn't like he was jumping into that fight because he needed the money. If you're offered a fight as a fighter and it's financially attractive, the guys are going to take it. Of course they're going to take it. But it has to be down to the coaching setup and the coaching structure to say, well, we've been offered this fight. At this stage of your career, I think there's easier nights. I think the guy was absolutely enormous. Now, I know Carl has had no trouble dealing with taller fighters his whole life. He's done that day in, day out. But I just thought Herring was too big, way too big a fighter. The reach was massive. The height difference. Physically, he looked very, very strong. Carl was just trying to it looked like they were training so they wouldn't miss the weight as in come in too late. Yeah. So I heard Jamie Moore and Travers say during the week that he hasn't done nothing all week. That worried me. That worried me, because they needed to keep calories on. So you've got that bigger, stronger man at super featherweight coming down, probably 11 stone. And as soon as he weighs in, he's going to rehydrate, probably 20 pound plus. Yeah. Then you've got Carl eating as much as he could to try and just get on that weight. That wasn't, in my opinion, Russell. Yeah. That fight wasn't at his best interests. I know the whole 3-weight world champion thing and all, and there's only two fighters from Britain that's ever won world titles at 3 weights. It was Duke McKenzie and Ricky Burns. So if you look at them 2 weights, Russell, so firstly, that Duke McKenzie's first title win was flyweight. Then he moved up to bantamweight, and he won a world title at bantamweight and super bantamweight. Now all them weights are in that bracket, a small bracket where the guys can probably do that, and the advantages in height and weight and power after weigh-in isn't going to be really that much different. When you go up from, say, super bantamweight to featherweight, it's a big jump. Then when you go from featherweight up to super featherweight, you're fighting guys that have got body types of lightweights and light welterweights, and it's too big a jump. It's way too big a jump. It's massive, massive jump. You look at the fighters in history that have moved up weights, the big frames, long Thomas Hearns. You look at Pacquiao, who started off at light flyweight and went up those small weights, incremental small weights. It wasn't like he jumped up from light flyweight and fought at super featherweight. It was up those small weights. De La Hoya done it, even though I thought he didn't win that fight against Felix Sturm at middleweight, but he had the frame to move up them weights. Carl had that, frame. I don't think the frame was big enough to carry the weight up the super featherweight. It was too much of an ask. And can I ask you a question, Russell?
Yeah, go on then, yeah.
So if the training team were on to get paid by performance and win, so if you turned around and said, guys, this fight's really tough. If you think I can win it, if I lose, you don't get paid. If I win, you get paid. Would they take the fight?
No. They wouldn't have done. No. No, I don't think they would now. They know they're on a set amount, don't they, before it starts. Frampton will be told what he's getting. He'll then tell them what he's going to pay them. They'll be happy because what were Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis doing before they started doing this? They weren't really doing it. One's a fireman, other one, what were they doing? Pottering about, weren't they? Jamie Moore. So you take somebody like Frampton and you get a lot of spoils after that, don't you? A lot of people want to come to you, don't they? Want to be associated with you. I personally feel that they knew in that camp he ain't got it no more, because if you haven't spotted that in that camp that Frampton hasn't got it, you're not a decent trainer, because we can see after 30 seconds. So what are they seeing when they're with him every day? Are they training? Are they cutting corners? Or what I want to know as a boxing fan, I want to know what went wrong, why that kid were put in there with a giant of a man in a fight he couldn't win. And then they're coming out saying, well, same old thing, innit, with Jamie Moore, saved him and that, and it's better to save him. He's saying, well, who else has he saved now? There's a few, isn't there? Rocky Fielding's retired with him, Martin Murray's retired with him, Dave Allen's retired with him, Frampton's just retired with him. What is it? A retirement home for fighters, Jamie Moore? He might as well set up a business in it, and this is where you go to retire, innit? Gangsters in America go to Florida to retire, don't they? Miami. Well, in England, you go to Jamie Moore's if you're a boxer and you want to retire, because he's retired more men than Social Security. I have a problem with how it's been done. Putting him in that condition, saying he's had a great camp, and then noticing that his timing's out in round one. What? Timing's out in first round? Are you having a laugh? Well, so we're taking him on pads before they go into the ring. That's why they do it. Your timing and your sharpness. Let's get him on pads. Get him out there, and then just to finish it off, innit? That's my opinion. I'm not saying Jamie Moore's a bad trainer, and I think he's a fantastic pundit and he was a great fighter, but I don't think he's as what people are making out as regards trainer, because who has he done with anybody from scratch? It's already getting these MTK lads dropped on your lap that have already won titles or already world ranked. What has he done from scratch? This is the problem with training in this country. Nobody's wanting to learn. Ben Davidson, he's an accident waiting to happen. Ben Davidson's an accident waiting to happen. I know you're watching, Ben. And that's from my heart, mate. I don't mean anything bad against you. Only a bit of a kid. You look like you should be in school, mate. But you're a disaster, Ben Davison, waiting to happen for a simple reason. Tyson Fury, undefeated world champion. Billy Joe Saunders, undefeated world champion. Josh Taylor, undefeated world champion. He's had them three dropped on his lap, yeah? Fair enough. He's had them on his lap because he's an MTK man, isn't he? Like Jamie. Two have left him, Fury and Saunders. There's not a bad word said because got MTK connection, isn't it? But they obviously don't rate him because they're not training with him, are they? Third one, Taylor. When Taylor and him part, and they will part eventually, what then? Is Ben Davison going to go back to learning his craft like he should have done at the beginning, or like he tried to do when he was with Jimmy Tibbs and Mark Tibbs? Or is he just going to be one of them guys that hangs about like a bad smell, getting on IFL, getting on boxing social, being everybody's pal and just getting fighters on his lap without having the apprenticeship? Do you see where I'm coming from? He's a disaster waiting to happen. That's my opinion. Jamie Moore maybe is a disaster waiting to happen, but he won't allow it because he retires them, doesn't he? Towels come in, don't they? They pull them out. I don't know. Are these trainers blagging it? Are they learning the craft? You tell me. I don't know. Mark Tibbs, he's learnt his craft, hasn't he? Been around it years. He's 52, isn't he, Mark? These are kids in the 20s. Oh, Jamie Moore's maybe 30 odd, isn't he? But point I want to make is, are they learning their apprenticeship? For example, if you pass your driving test tomorrow, I'm not going to give you keys, am I? Well, when I passed my driving test, I thought, oh, God, my dad's bound to help me get a 3 litre Capri. Now I ended up with a Mark II Escort, old knackered thing. Of course, you can't drive just because you pass your test. Let me say you can drive, does it? And I knocked it about all over, bumped it here, there, and everywhere. So imagine me in like a 3 litre Capri back in the day, in 80s. I'd have been dead, wouldn't I? And it's same with Jamie Moore, Ben Davison. Yeah, they've got a board license, a board license to say the trainers, but can they really train fighters? Yeah, they've done a bit of Jamie's been a champion boxer. Ben did a bit of fighting, but are they really trainers? Because they've got a license. Come on. They've not been around game long enough, have they? So it being everybody's pal, somebody's going to get hurt sooner or later. That's just my opinion. Touch wood, it don't happen, but that's just how I feel about it. I think it rolled in bad taste. And Carl Frampton is a grown man, so he knew what he was doing. But I just think it makes boxing look what it is, doesn't it? Or it makes boxing look bad. Bad matchmaking. Whoever matched that, you want sacking. All right, you couldn't. Well, it's not even worth mentioning, is it? But all right, then let's move on to something different instead of the adventures of Tintin. What about Rob Tebbert putting tweets out regarding Brook Khan? You've seen that today, have you? Somebody's just sent me it. Let's have a look. What on earth is that? I don't know what, somebody just put a big picture of me up on social. Matt sent me that.
Love it.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yep, see it, love it.
Somebody's put a big picture up of me, and it's it's Steffi Ball. Steffi Ball's put a picture up of me. Why does he want to do with that? I don't know. You living in Steffi Ball's head, mate. Listen, mate, Steffi Ball needs to come and see me anytime he wants, or I'll go see him, mate. But he'll ring police. I went to his house again, he'll ring police. And he'd be in his rights to do that as well. But I don't know. I mean, oh, here we are. Rob Tebbert says, would you like to see Khan Brook on his boxing social account? Full story, link to website. Khan Brook Khan, whatever you want to call it. They're both in the mid 30s, aren't they now? They're 35 or something. Look, I don't even know what to say to it. I can't even believe we're talking about it. But what do you think about it? Should it happen? Will you pay for it?
Well, firstly, Russell, I want to back up a wee bit. Yeah. And I want to say that about my second video on your platform, which is on the Free the Air site. We spoke about this and I said it and I called it on your channel, and that was probably 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So if Rob's run out of ideas or run out of knowledge, come on to the channel and you'll probably get some proper boxing.
Rob Tebber, you control how Eddie Earn's hula hoop, right? After your operation to part you from him, because I've heard you stuck to Coldwell and Bellew while you're up in that hoop. Crawl out of there after you've been cut free. Clean yourself up with Savlon, TCP, and a hot soapy bath with Nivea soap. That's the best soap there is, kid. And then come see me. We'll have you on Zoom, Rob. All right.
So he did have to go on and breaking news, this and that. Khan and Brook
knows what Khan Brook.
Ben nonsense, all this nonsense.
Ben Vargas.
Ben Vargas, all this. Do you know what? I don't want to see Brook versus Khan, because how can that be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control? How could that be sanctioned?
Vargas is a busted flush as well since Khan fought him. That was years ago, man. He's been finished since then.
He's only won 2 of his last 6 fights.
He's won. He's gone 2-4 in his last 6. Right. He's shot to pieces like Formella. But yet they're going to build Conor Benn up as he's just beat somebody who'll give Amir Khan trouble up. Listen, forget 3 year in boxing. 3 week in boxing is a long time if you don't look after yourself. Or 3 sparring sessions. So is it about 3 years since Amir Khan fought that Vargas? Is it something like that, isn't it?
It's something like that.
So what they're going on about it like it's a pick, not a pick and fight.
Trade fight.
What's the word they're using to sell that? It's not a breakaway fight or a crossroads fight for Conor Benn. Crossroads fight. I've heard that used a lot today. Crossroads fight against Vargas. He's a busted flush, mate. And Tony Bellew were going on about it. Anybody would think they were fetching over Aaron Pryor for Ben, wouldn't they? A peak Aaron Pryor or Arguello. The way they're going on about it, jeez, unbelievable.
Firstly, Russell, Vargas was never a world level contender. He was
English British level maximum. English
journeyman
stroke English stroke British level.
Yeah,
his peak he was maybe British level, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about him being this world level roadman killer.
Anytime he stepped up to anything that resembles world level, he fought a 40-year-old he lost to a 40-year-old Luis Galazzo, who is the fighter that gave Ricky Hatton absolute fits up at welterweight, and remember you were talking the other day when Dennis was promoting him?
Yeah.
Well, that guy that fought Hatton and gave him fits up at welterweight for the WBA title? Vargas lost to him last year, and he was in his 40s. No. He's remember the New York guy, all the tattoos?
Oh, yeah.
All the tattoos all over him that Hatton got the decision against.
Oh, Colasso.
Johnny Colasso. That's it.
Luis Colasso, is it?
Yes, that's him.
Did Ricky Hatton fight him on a Dennis show in Boston?
Yes, that was it.
Boston,
that was it.
In Boston, yeah, that was Dennis's last fight, I think, with Ricky Hatton before he fought Mayweather, didn't he? Yeah.
That was his last fight there. He went up to welterweight.
That's the
then
one.
He come back down.
Panicked, didn't he? And said, "Oh, he's not a welterweight and all that." Yeah, because it was an hard fight, wasn't it?
He put him over early, and then he just come back at Hatton like a shitstorm, and he gave him everything he wanted. He should have got that decision, but Vargas couldn't beat him last year, and he was in his 40s. So that says it all. That says it. That the level this fight's at.
I would say Adam Beanie Smith. Have you seen what he's going on about this week about it? They were talking about this Ben Vargas to Adam Smith, and he kept going, we're taking gulps of air. And I'm like, Bean, you've either got a breathing problem or you're acting and it's cringeworthy acting. It's not Oscar worthy, Golden Globe, BAFTA award winning acting. He kept going on about Vargas like you were Edwin Villario, something like that. Manny
No,
Pacquiao.
he's not. No, it's not even. If Conor Benn doesn't do this guy within 4 rounds, there has to be questions asked. This is even the 4 rounds. This fight should not go 4 rounds.
And of course, the big talking point is going to be, if Conor Benn beats him, is Conor Benn going to start coming out with pay-per-view? I'm pay-per-view and all this. I mean, it's going to be unbearable, isn't it? Next 7 days is going to be unbearable. I can't cope.
They put up a poster on their channel, Sky channel, about. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. So you've got Nigel Benn standing there, and you've got Conor Benn, and the music is in the background, and the caption was somebody, I think it was a caption like, yeah, look at Conor, he likes the music like his dad. And his dad's standing there looking at the TV, and he's standing there bopping to the music. And I'm thinking, this is absolute tripe. This is nonsense. This is actually devaluing the product of the lad. He's trying to build himself up and having this rubbish press that's actually cringeworthy.
All right then. Let me just turn this off because the Twitter brigade will be sending me Twitter stuff all the time, and I'm not even on it. You see, the funny thing is about that Twitter, Kevin doesn't want me going on there, and we can't mess about on YouTube because you lose your license. So I have to take it on chin, which cheeses me off at best of times. But whatever they're talking about me, they're leaving someone else alone. If that had been 12 months ago, I'd have been wheel spinning out here into my car and I'd been knocking on his door while he's been hiding behind your settee, wouldn't you? Or hiding behind your size 18 skirt. But it is what it is, isn't it? Right. Fury Joshua. Why are they telling us so many lies about this? What's going on, Ken? What's the story?
Sure, was it not announced a year ago, 10 months ago, that it was made and it was set and they were going to do this and they were going to do that? And
10 months today, isn't it?
Waste of time. It's like, see, when I see a press conference with Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, when I see Tyson, when I see Joshua head to head, when I see it's on a certain platform, that's when it's made. See all this talk, announcements about announcements. What they're doing, Russell, is they're trying to keep the boxing talk relevant. They're trying to sell the fight for, if it does get made, they can sell it. And the big percentage that they're looking in is the casual fans. It's the guy down the street who's going to bring a few of his mates in, and a few of his mates in. That's the type of pay-per-view they're looking. That's what they're trying. That's why they're trying to build up this narrative about the fight's been made, because they know people that actually know anything about boxing know this fight isn't anywhere near close. There's too much money involved. There's too much personalities involved. There's too many TV networks involved. No, it's not happening anytime soon.
I don't think it's ever going to happen, I think it's a bit like Brook Khan. They don't risk it. They're already millionaires, but they need each other to feed off each other for PR, don't they? For crumbs, for rested fighters they can fight. People talk about Anthony Joshua as this roadman killer, but who's his best 3 wins? Can you tell me?
Okay, so probably Alexander Povetkin.
Age 30.
Before he was shot to bits.
Yeah.
Let me see. I was going to say Joseph Parker, but he hugged him way through that fight. That was a terrible fight. Terrible fight.
Stunk arena out pair of them about like the shit the pants.
I was going to say the Ruiz rematch, but you know, Andy Ruiz was 21 stone.
Joshua
and didn't
pants as well. He'll fight to go near them, so we can't have.
Yeah,
who's that lead?
he stung Andy Ruiz really hard in the second round and had him out on his feet, and he ran away from. He all he needed was to throw one more shot. He was terrified to throw that one more shot against a 21 stone man who hadn't trained for that fight. You've got the Charles Martin fight, who Charles Martin just turned up for a holiday and didn't want to get up.
So we got them for his top 3 wins. Or would you? Well, I'd say obviously you're dancing around the issue. I'd say Vladimir. I'd say Povetkin. And I'd probably say Charlie Martin, because he took him out early, and he had a belt, but he won't. Can you even give him Charlie Martin? Probably, yeah. So, because he took the belt off the so-called champion, even though it were all a bit pantomime job, wasn't it? If there is 3 best wins, Joshua's career, in my opinion, it's more or less based on who he hasn't fought. He didn't fight Luis Ortiz. Eddie Hearn signed him, didn't he? He were a WBA interim champion. Why Hearn never upgraded him, I don't know, because the belt were there to be upgraded. They bought him as a blocker to protect Joshua. He's not fought Usyk. He's not fought Joe Joyce. He's not fought Wilder. He's not fought Fury. It's more about who he hasn't fought. Now, Joyce, well, they've put Joyce in position now, haven't they, with Usyk, to protect Joshua, haven't they? And so that's why I think Joyce will get a deal with Eddie Hearn. Joyce is there to fight Usyk to stop Joshua having to fight him, because Dylan White won't go near Usyk, will he? Everybody in boxing knows that. He's becoming a bit of a diva himself now, Dylan White, like Joshua. But Joshua's career for me is based on who he hasn't fought, not who he has fought. Because the people he has fought, your Pulevs and your Brazils and Dylan Whites and all that, they're all C-class, them guys. They're C-class. Vladimir A-class, but come on, he were in his 42nd year, 69th fight, shot to bits. He had no left after round 6. So Joshua's fighting these people, but he's also swerved Ortiz, who's an old man now, swerved Usyk. He's a small man, but he don't want to go near him, does he? He's probably could be best out at lot, Usyk. He didn't want to fight Wilder, so Fury had to do dirty work for him. He hasn't fought who he should have fought, has he really? But everybody's bought into it because of how he looks. He looks like an Adonis and blah, 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 and he says all right things, does all right things. Sometimes he overtries it, doesn't he? Like that Black Lives Matter thing that he read out were a load of crap, wasn't it? All lives matter, but he now looks stupid. And then they backtracked on that, didn't they, doing all the PR work. And look, he's as manufactured as you're going to get, and he's probably a bigger fraud than Bellew and Dave Caldwell ever were. But in my honest opinion, his career it's not about who he's fighting, it's about who he hasn't fought. Do you agree?
The fight that I want to see him fight Wilder.
Yeah, I do. They're not going to do that, because Wilder can put his lights out forever.
I want to see him fight Wilder. That's the fight I want. I see all this talk about Joshua Fury. It's so far away.
Oh,
I would rather see him fight Wilder and see how he copes with somebody throwing big shots, heavy shots, planting his feet, everything he does, trying to counter him. I would like to see how he would fight. You know, look at how Joshua dealt with Dominic Brazil, and look how Wilder dealt with him. That just answers your question.
Dominic Brazil. Wilder put him to keep, didn't he, in round 1?
Smashed him.
And that's what he'd do with Dylan White or Joshua. They'd be tailor-made for Wilder then. They know that. That's why they don't mention Wilder's name. Dylan mentions Wilder's name and then starts mentioning other people mention Wilder to Dylan White, and Dylan White's on a different page. He's like, nah, not Deontay Wilder. We're talking Trevor Bryan. He's got hardware. Trevor Bryan. Has anybody ever seen Trevor Bryan fight? Jeez.
Awful.
How could you
Awful.
say you didn't want to fight Wilder when you can? Why would you say you didn't want to fight Wilder? He's got a name, 5-year world champion. He's iced everybody he's met except Fury. So I don't get that. I don't get it, mate.
It's like they're trying their best. Like before it was Manuel Char. He was talking about fighting Manuel Char, who was terrible. And they're just looking now to pinch a belt against the weakest opposition. All the belts are with Fury and Joshua. The regular belt now is with Trevor Bryant. The belt was previously with Manuel Char, and the WBA just took it off him and gave it to, the Trevor Bryant, and that terrible fight, worst world title fight. I wouldn't class that as a world title fight. It was one of the worst supposed world title fights I have ever seen.
Level is that? He's English level. He's Fabio Wardley level.
I agree with you.
Fabio Wardley.
I agree with you. During the fight, they were actually showing the camera. It was from chest upwards because the two of them, Burmy and Stavern, Trevor Bryant were so fat. They showed it from chest level. They were so fat. I couldn't believe. I turned it off after 2 rounds. They were knackered. Two of them were knackered after 2 rounds, and the fight was terrible.
It looks like Billy Bunter, that's Stavern.
Do you remember from the 60s the British heavyweight Don Cockle?
Yeah.
He looked like Don Cockle, worse than Don Cockle. At least Don Cockle could fight. He fought Marciano for the heavyweight title and gave him a nightmare. At least Don Cockle could fight. But, the two of them, it was an absolutely terrible, terrible spectacle of supposed world championship boxing. It was the worst title fight. It's so bad I wouldn't even class as a title fight. It was terrible. I've seen better English level heavyweight fights. Like when Tyson Fury fought Big John McDermott the first time. That was a better fight than that. And those two lads were English level at the time. But Trevor Bryant, how could you sell him on TV? How could you sell that fight on TV against Dillian White? He's so out of shape, so technically poor. The only way they could probably sell it is the whole Don Keane angle. But is Eddie Hearn going to do work with Don Keane? Nah, no chance. No chance. Don Keane's too cute.
Yeah. All right, then. Okie dokie. We're out of time, kid. What time is it? Yeah. We're out of time, so I think I'll stick this on members. You've got a bit of a cult following now, on there, now.
Have I?
Great. Emails about you and that. When's Ken on again? When's Ken on?
Great. Great. Thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
He's busy with Barbie.
Wish.
Oh. All right, then. Well, listen, Ken, thanks for coming on. It's been emotional. You're always welcome anytime. You're a good boxing bloke, and you have a great week, what's left of it.
Thanks very much, Russell. Take care, mate. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
All the best.